What's up, you beautiful bastards? You know, do you guys remember when BioWare made games instead of therapy sessions? Yeah, me neither. Today we are going to be autopsying the Dragon Age franchise. 4 games, 1 corpse, and a suicide note written in pronoun stickers. We'll praise the rare good, torch the garbage, and end with what I'm sure many of you clicked on this video for in the first place, the Veilguard, the final nail in the coffin, hammered in by a non-binary dwarf with a man bun. Anyway, let's just begin before HR flags this video. Grab your estrogen blockers, kids. This one, I'm gonna be real, man. This one's gonna be a disaster. Welcome to 2009. We're in the middle of the housing bubble crash. MySpace is dying, and BioWare drops Dragon Age Origins, a dark fantasy RPG where your choices actually mattered. You know, unlike your ex's open relationship pitch.
Fuck.
You could be a noble dwarf, a city elf getting curb stomped by humans, or a mage locked in a tower because circle jerks are mandatory for some reason. But the combat, it was tactical, pause and play goodness, you know, like Dungeons and Dragons, which this entire beginning IP seemed to be grounded in. You could micromanage your party, you know, like a virgin micromanages his RuneScape clan.
Hey, bro, come on now, dog. Come on, man.
All right, man, I'm on one today. All jokes aside, there was a lot of good, a lot of great, in fact, in this game. I mean, the game actually had consequences to your choices. I mean, do you sacrifice Connor's mom, recruit Lagaine? Regardless of what you do, your dog remembers. Companions like, you know, Morrigan, a goth waifu before it was trendy. Alistair, a whiny himbo with, you know, with real heart. Sten, cookie-cutting, loving murder machine. Then we had the Darkspawn, the antagonist, a well-thought-out and actually scary one at that. Not some, you know, glitter vampires, which I still don't understand why were popular at the time. These bastards lived in the deep roads beneath the ground and would emerge periodically to raid the surface, you know, corrupt the land with blight and capture victims, especially women, you know, to refuel their reproduction. It had some bad things, sure, you know, like for that whole section where you shapeshift for like 45 minutes was an absolute cancerous slog. It was just boring, but this take is, again, highly subjective, and some people may have liked that section of the game. I personally didn't. I mean, I haven't met one yet that liked it, but I'm sure they're out there somewhere. The graphics today obviously have not aged super well, but hey, it was 2009. Overall, and it's been a while since I played it, in my opinion, was peak BioWare for the time. It was before they discovered, you know, Tumblr. And I remember being excited for when its sequel would eventually release, especially with the cliffhanger ending that it left us with in the original game. All in all, Origins was probably one of the best Dungeons and Dragons based games ever put out. I mean, it was even giving, you know, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 and that sort of thing a huge run for their money. It was just an absolutely fantastic experience. But let's move on into what came next. Dragon Age 2. How can I summarize this game? An assload of recycled caved assets, flash, and explosion spam. Alright, but let's go into detail here. Let's use our fine-tooth comb, shall we? Fast forward 2 years. EA smells money. BioWare gets a measly 16 months to shit out a sequel to the very successful Origins game. Now, I'm all for companies getting a huge hit and then immediately going into production for its sequel. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you get a hit, at this point, the game is yours to lose. So what did BioWare do with their newly found gold mine? We got Dragon Age 2, the gaming equivalent of a Tinder date who says,
I know, I'm not like the other girls.
Now, before I get into everything that was wrong with this game, I will point out some of the good things, like, you know, Hawk's kind of snarky attitude, the default male Hawk sounds like he's, you know, the voice acting was done really well. It was almost like he was auditioning for a Deadpool prequel. I liked the character's general, you know, just presence, I should say. And we had companions like Varric, who was a dwarf whose character gave, you know, I even say Gimli a run for his money. Isabella, a pirate thought with a heart of gold, plated in daddy issues, sure, but I thought the cast was generally pretty good. But that's kind of where the good stopped for me. In the bad, we had, you know, recycled maps, the same cave, same warehouse, over and over and over and over again. Literally, the game had like 3 to 5 layouts for practically every area type in the game. It was flipped a little bit, recolored, and it just felt lazy as hell. 10 hours in, and your immersion in the world is pretty much dead because of this shit. In the combat, man, did this really receive a massive downgrade. It was pure just button mashing diarrhea, to be honest. Enemies constantly coming in with, you know, infinite respawns and popping up out of nowhere. It put the word grind to shame. It had a lot of what I call fake difficulty, which means it relied on sheer quantity of enemies and their placement and their HP bars to represent a challenge. What other widely disliked game did this? I don't know.
Every day is so wonderful, and suddenly it's hard to...
Something that I've always said is that it doesn't really matter what other elements in a game are good if the activity you spend the majority of your time doing in a game is dog shit. And this is exactly what happened here. But I would also argue that one of Dragon Age Origin's strongest points that made it, you know, a lightning in a bottle type of game for BioWare was completely butchered in its sequel. The story in Dragon Age 2 was, you know, a mage Templar civil war boiled down to both sides are bad. It's cliche as fuck, and it seemed like it was written by someone who just skimmed Reddit threads. It was also extremely linear, a far cry from what the original game was. Instead of creating your own character like in Origins, you were this time a fixed character with an unchangeable backstory. And the result was that acts felt like, I don't know, disjointed with time skips and other unavoidable plot points. All the choice that was in the first game was just stripped away. And instead of shaping the game, you simply felt like you were observing it. Let's also not forget that the RPG elements were a notable downgrade as well from the original game. Just dumbed down Mass Effect style systems were interjected, which ultimately ruined replayability. That was one of the huge staples of Origins, is going back and redoing the story but with a completely different class and a completely different, you know, identity for your characters. Overall, Dragon Age 2 was playable, but man, it reeked of corporate panic sweat mixed in with the bad breath of rushed laziness to try to capitalize on the success of the first game. So, with the entire fan base for the most part disappointed with the sequel, what would BioWare do next when they would release its third installment in 2014? Here we are. It's now 2014. BioWare goes open world because Ubisoft said so. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. Enter Dragon Age Inquisition. 100+ hours of content. 90% of it is picking elf root and closing rifts that look like cosmic buttholes. And this game committed one of the worst sins a game can create. It was one of my largest pet peeves, and it's something we're seeing happening way too often, even today in 2025. And that is a single-player RPG game with MMORPG elements and quest design. And sure, many will argue that the companions in this game were better than those of Dragon Age 2, and in my opinion, it still didn't even remotely compare to the cast of Dragon Age Origins, even if that statement is true. And while we can celebrate that actual choices in a way were revived in this installment, for example, your Inquisition actually shapes the world, until the next atrocity on this list retconned it, and trust me, we'll get there, But the scope of the choices were weak compared to Dragon Age Origins, and given how, like in Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition, the story was still pretty linear and you had no real evil or gray morality options, meaning the choices were more of an illusion of choice ultimately, and instead of being game altering as they were in Origins. And regardless of the fact that even the illusion of choice was there in Inquisition, which it wasn't present in Dragon Age 2, it doesn't make up for the absolute slog the majority of the game ended up being, in my opinion. So what were the things that went wrong here? Well, as I previously mentioned, dude, MMO style fetch quests were everywhere and all the fucking time. Go to the hinterlands and then never come back. Close 10 rifts, etc., etc., etc. Just mindless nonsense that has no business being in a single-player, story-driven RPG that's supposed to be grounded in D&D mythology. And to make things even worse, the gear in the game was absolute trash outside of crafted gear, which discouraged exploration in an RPG. And the huge open world seemed mostly empty. And once again, with the combat, the turn-based D&D style of Origins was still nowhere to be found. We got action combat, which still felt simplified and floaty like it did in, Dragon Age 2. And while it was later patched, there was no auto attack on launch in an action RPG. Okay. The combat style. Anyway, let's just move on. Now, I'm going to give some credit here where credit is due. It is also a popular opinion that its Trespasser DLC is the only part that matters and should have just been the main game to begin with, because it actually delivers a true ending to the story. There were massive lore bombs in the expansion, emotional closure, and it refined the gameplay that the base game's 80-hour nightmare of slog of fetch quests and empty maps sorely lacked. In a way, it was classic BioWare's return to form for a solid 6 to 10 hours. The expansion was actually quite good. It fixed a lot of Inquisition's fundamental problems with the gameplay and refocused on narrative over, open world MMO style bullshit questing and busy work. The game on release seemed like, how can I best describe Inquisition? Because I don't think it was a terrible game, especially with its expansion. I guess the best way I can put it is the base game was kind of like ambition on steroids and execution on Ambien, but much of it was resolved with the DLC. Again, I want to be clear. Inquisition, in my opinion, in many ways, was an improvement overall over Dragon Age 2 and gave hope to fans, especially after the rushed mess that was Dragon Age 2, and with the stellar addition of Inquisition's Trespasser DLC. Fans were starting to think that maybe, just maybe, BioWare had learned their lesson and was headed back in the right direction, back towards what made Dragon Age Origins such a wonderful, IP to begin with, and heading in the right direction for the franchise. But man, how fucking wrong we were. Now, Dragon Age, the Veilguard.
Fuck.
The reason I'm sure the vast majority of you even clicked on this video. Oh Lord, give me strength to get through this. The game that killed the franchise faster than a vegan at a Texas barbecue. This game was beyond a joke. I'm literally trying my best to restrain myself for this part of this fucking video. Hell, even calling it a fucking game is an insult to the term. Let's be real, let's cut the bullshit. It was virtue signaling. Pure propaganda, not even trying to disguise itself as a video game anymore. I mean, how do we dissect this rainbow-painted corpse and truly do its embarrassing existence justice? Ooh, I know, let's just go with the old, tried and true, a numbered checklist, shall we? We could start with the good old character creator. 47 gender options. Okay, really, there was 3, but, you know, since it's more than 2, what's the difference? More sliders than a Tinder catfish, and the fucking dialogue wheel now includes my pronouns are, because nothing says epic fantasy quite like a forced, woke, nonsensical, made-up grammar lesson.
I've never been so happy to be close to death.
I know.
Dialogue written by ChatGPT on a soy latte bender? Check. Here's an example. I identify as a dragonkin in my lived experiences. Oh, man. You remember Varric, the dwarf narrator for the franchise? Well, he's reduced to a diversity checklist narrator, and he sounds like he's reading fucking HR memos, man.
On the best day of his life, Solus wouldn't see you coming, Rook. And don't worry, I'll still be here to talk if you need me.
You need to shut the fuck up!
Dude, we're only on point 2. All right. I mean, the art direction in this game looks like a Fortnite skin pack fucked a DeviantArt OC. I mean, Quinari now has anime hair and, of course, you know, mental illness badges, because nothing says horned war race like Hot Topic aesthetics, sure. In the Darkspawn, remember the scary, awesome antagonists that were dark and gritty? Well, they're replaced with misunderstood blight refugees. Well, I guess it's more uncomfortably accurate, considering they are known for forming grape gangs.
That's really fucked up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. I'm just calling shit how it is. Every companion is pansexual. Because in this world, straight people are the real mythical creatures. I mean, we have Tash, a non-binary dragon who lectures you about gender while you're literally fighting gods.
That's why we recruited her.
Actually, Tosh uses them for themselves now.
What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is this world? What have they done to us? What did they do to us?
Sex scenes, which, by the way, are not super uncommon in these sorts of games. Well, when it comes to this topic in video games, I'm fine with them if they're like anything, if they're like anything else. They serve the story and aren't just there to be edgy or, you know, give gooners and troons more material for their spank banks. But oddly enough, in this game, it was all fully clothed hugs. It seems strange when the whole existence of the game itself is to normalize confusing degeneracy. I guess EA is just afraid of an ESRB ratings and, you know, Twitter crap, but whatever. At least nobody had to watch a scene where something is described as a girl dick. Count your blessings, I suppose. You remember Solus? Referenced in the lore in Origins, and in Dragon Age 2, and as the antagonist in the Inquisition. Suddenly, he's a misunderstood anti-hero. His plan to tear down the Veil all boils down to this: colonization's bad. Stunning. Brave. Oh, and the Teventir Imperium, you know, used to be the slave empire hellhole. Now it's a queer utopia with slavery nuances. So essentially Portland, I guess. And Dalish elves, they're still racist, but now it's problematic to call them out for it. I don't understand. I mean, tell me this game is propaganda without telling me this game is just pure propaganda. Man, we still have 3 fucking more of these points to get to.
Put a bullet in my head and kill me right now.
Combat. Let's just call it what it is. It was a God of War ripoff. There is no tactical camera, probably because pausing games is ableist or some bullshit at this point, as far as these absolute retards that worked on this game think anyway. And the difficulty, well, there are 5 settings now, but it includes a story mode, for, DSPs and yellow paint loving game journalists out there who would likely need training wheels if they were in wheelchairs. But I digress. The gameplay was nothing to write home about. So, mid at best. Okay, what happens when your marketing team brags about consulting sensitivity readers? No, we don't want to offend. The translation for that is, we offend everyone with talent, a functioning brain, and a grasp on reality. So, now, while in development for over 6 years, the game was titled The Dread Wolf Rises and then became The Veilguard 24 hours before the pre-trailer launched. That's already a red flag in the gaming industry. The reveal trailer was 2 minutes of cinematic shit and literally 30 seconds of gameplay, and then crickets. No beta, sparse updates until in September of that year, IGN, another shit company by the way nobody takes seriously, had a hands-on 20-minute experience of the game, and of course it mainly focused on companions, self-realization arcs, example, Tasha's non-binary reveal. Game director Corinne Bush, hope I said that right, if I didn't, I don't give a fuck. Companions are more self-realized than ever. I mean, previews were all emphasizing pronouns, degenerate pan romances, inclusivity options, just what real gamers care about in a beloved franchise about medieval mythical fantasy, right?
No.
Overall, marketing was obviously tone deaf and a hype vacuum that alienated its core player base with progressive flexes amid development hell whispers that were circulating everywhere, that the game was struggling to even get made internally. Finally, final point. Now get ready for this. This game sold 1.5 million copies. Inquisition sold 12 million. That is a disaster that can't even be overstated. I mean, Steam reviews were overwhelmingly negative, and it hit a peak of 89,000 concurrent players, which dropped off at lightning speed in mere days. The consensus was it was just too preachy, too intrusive with its messaging, and completely forgot that it was a video game in a beloved mythical fantasy Dungeons & Dragons-based franchise. The game lost millions upon millions of dollars, and its sales were 60% below its target. It had exceptionally low pre-orders and exceptionally high review bombs, as people on Metacritic are prone to do. The launch trailer got massively downvoted after people saw what was actually in the game, i.e. the aforementioned items on this list. And the comment section is ripe full of players shitting on this game and mourning the loss of what this franchise once was. In the aftermath, BioWare laid off over 50 developers. No DLC or further updates are planned, and EA quietly shelved Dragon Age as a franchise with no plans to make another game or even to do a remaster of Origins or Dragon Age 2. Essentially, saying this game was a flop is an understatement. This ultimately, this wasn't even a game. It was a $200 million HR seminar with gay dragons. The death blow wasn't bugs or budget. It was pure contempt that they had for their own audience. Contempt for the fans, for the lore, for basic storytelling, for fucking reality, frankly. They didn't just pander, they lectured. And because they virtue signaled a little too close to the sun, gamers just flat out said no. And you may be wondering, as I have many times as I ponder when I'm dissecting this type of bullshit, that these big companies that push these sorts of messaging and agendas, such as BlackRock, etc., it's very clear they don't make money from this. It universally costs them a lot of money, which goes to show that money isn't their interest. It's literally pushing a message. But I digress. Dragon Age was born in 2009, and it was a masterpiece, and it died in 2024. It died of wokeness. Literally the go woke, go broke meme is 100% true. It's not a meme anymore. It's just a fact of life. People had high expectations considering the DLC in Inquisition was headed in a much better direction. And then, of course, with the release of the hit Baldur's Gate 3, which is a game much like Dragon Age Origins, they both are based in Dungeons & Dragons, people's expectations for the next Dragon Age were high. You know, they were expecting a real RPG that respects its audience, like Baldur's Gate 3 did. But as expected, these cancerous activist-infested studios that have actually no clue what gaming even is or about, or what its fan bases want or care about, just couldn't help themselves. Instead of making a game that learned from its past failures and improved upon its past successes, it decided to bash everyone over the head with an ideology that has literally never had any success in the entire industry. Ever. There's not one instance where woke gaming, regardless of whether it was shoved into an IP that already existed or was its own fresh, brand new IP, has been successful. They have all failed. It's very, very clear that gamers as a whole, regardless of what country they're in, don't want anything to do with any of this shit. You can't force it on them. Well, that does it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for all the support over the last few months. Up to 8K subs now, going for 10. Let's make it happen. I really, really appreciate all the kind words and support, guys. And even some of the meaner comments I get a good kick out of. So that means it's time, now that we're done with this Dragon Age video, for you to leave your comments down below. What do you think of the franchise, of its rise and fall? Yeah, leave a comment. I read them all, whether I agree or disagree with them. And but keep in mind, if you do a personal attack, I just delete your comment and then I ban you from commenting ever again. And so if you continue doing it, you're just going to be screaming into the empty void. So attack arguments, not people. Anyways, what should be the next video in the Fall of a Franchise video? I have quite a few in the pipeline, but I'm interested to know which ones you think have fallen from grace and need to be addressed. So anyway, guys, thanks once again. I really appreciate all the support. Keep in mind, I do stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I stream on 3 platforms at once: Kick, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you're the kind of person that likes and enjoys streams, come hang out, shoot the shit. No money's required. Just your presence is enough. Peace out, Wardens, or whatever, whatever else you identify as. Check out the other videos of the Fall of Franchise. There's 2 here, so check those out. And God bless, and as always, keep it real.